The Golden State Warriors, the return of Steph, of course, but unfortunately, a still re-injured Klay Thompson. So, two questions. One, can they recreate any of their previous magic without Thompson on the floor? And two, will Thompson ever return to that same performance level that we're used to seeing in the glory days of Golden State, or has he plateaued? Is he done? Let me jump over to Cody. What do you think on that?
Well, I think they can recreate some of that magic with the addition of Kelly Oubre. Even with him like splitting the time with him and Wiggins on the perimeter, they should be able to fill that void up. Probably about 75% of what Klay can provide. But anytime you got to replace a Hall of Fame caliber two guard like that, it's gonna be hard to do. But Kelly Oubre, notably, like he's a strong perimeter defender. He can hit outside shots. Last season, he averaged 18 a game for Phoenix. So he's definitely capable, and he should be able to help generate points for this Warriors team. Enough. So in my eyes, I see them as being like a true contender this year, even without Klay.
Wow.
And then in regards to like Klay coming back and being a semblance of what he was, like anytime an Achilles tear in basketball is like it's pretty much the worst injury that you can get, and especially for someone like him who's such a strong perimeter defender. The ability to move laterally with something that's just going to sap your athleticism like that Achilles tear, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to envision him coming back and being like a Hall of Fame capable player. Like I think he's already punched his stamp into the Hall of Fame with his body of work, but coming back, I see him kind of going in that mold of that Ray Allen type.
Sure.
When he played, when he played with Miami, just a guy that's his shooting ability is it'll be able to maintain, but just being an all world defender like he was in the past, I don't foresee that being the case.
That's good insight. I would equate those types of injuries in the NBA to Tommy John, who's a pitcher in baseball, but without that upside of, oftentimes it's a 50-50 with Tommy John. They come back and they're a shell of what they were. Or they come back and they add a mile or two to their fastball, So, that's very tough for as you had mentioned, a Hall of Famer in the making right there. Kind of a tough possible end. Who knows? I mean, hopefully we're all wrong and he comes back and he's the Klay of old, and that would be a nice ending to that particular story. Jake, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I want you guys to just bear with me for this next part. I want you to close. I want you to close your eyes, okay? Close them tight, and I want you to picture something that you love and that you're good at. Let's say, just for the sake of this, let's say it's having sex. You're really good at having sex. If you close your eyes and you think about not having it for 2 years without having it, and then be asked to perform at the same level when you come back. It's easier for some of us than others, but the same trouble Klay is going to have is with my scenario is the D. The D's going to be an issue, possibly. So it's his defense that's going to suffer. His shooting will be good forever and ever. I don't think they're going to win a championship this year. They're not going to win a championship. Well, that's all I can say is I don't think they'll win it this year. But they've got a good front office, so I mean, honestly, they could pull something together. They're kind of a different franchise.
Yeah, good.
It's hard not to envision that window closing for them, though. Like that team's not getting any younger. I think Klay is 30. Curry, I believe, will be 32, and then Draymond is like 29, I believe. And I don't envision seeing something like Draymond Green aging well. His style of basketball, he seems a little bit like overweight for a power forward.
Yeah, always. So this is a heartbreaker, right? Like even you're not a Golden State person, like your heart goes out to that because holy shit, he spent a year in rehab thinking about coming back this year. That was his main focus, and then out another year. That sucks.
Well, yeah, especially with like an ACL tear, like guys have people can come back from that and be just fine and not miss a beat. So you go from that to tearing your Achilles, like that's such a monumentally worse injury. Like, so I can only imagine what is going through his head. Like his tail's wagging to get back on the court.
Yeah.
And
in a pickup game, no
just to
less,
have that
right?
happen,
Wasn't
like,
it a
Pickup game. It's not a pickup game.
Damn.
Yep.
I mean, you say
Totally.
you hate to see it happen, but you can't be surprised when, if your first name is Klay with a K, these things don't happen to Butch Thompson, So just to the Thompson family there, the mother and father, maybe they should have rethought that, There's not enough Butches out there.
How are you blaming the?
I'm saying if you name them Butch Thompson,
fucked up.
Butch Thompson doesn't get an Achilles tear in a pickup game. All right.
All right. Well, I okay. If I wouldn't have just used that sex analogy, I would have.
Yes,
I would have called
that's why I went down that road. I said, "There's no way that he can call me
Right.
out on anything lower than what he just went through."
So Wiggins, I've heard a lot of people, and it might have been you, Cody. I can't remember, but I've heard the buzz around this whole thought process on this Golden State year that Wiggins. Oh, don't worry, we got Wiggins. Don't worry, we got Wiggins. Don't worry, we got Wiggins. Is now the thing.
So should they
saying?
worry that they don't have Wiggins?
They should be terrified.
Okay.
I know.
Who are you talking
Ask
to?
Minnesota. Ask Minnesota. You think they're worried about not having Wiggins?
Yeah.
Cody Wiggins, is he? You can't put stock in Wiggins to do anything crazy with this team, right?
I think he can benefit a lot from this team. Kind of like this could be the artist formerly known as Wiggins. Maybe if he can reinvent himself, like he has the talent, and that's what has always bugged me with this guy is. He's athletic. He's long. He can shoot decently. It amazes me that this dude isn't like an all NBA defensive team.
It's the way he moves, right? His strides, even his strides when he's running up and down the court. You look at him and you go, "This guy, things move slower for this guy as far as the game comes to him slower." And he does look like he would be like just an incredible talent just by the way he moves to me. I don't get it, bro.
Well, like the aforementioned Anthony Edwards, right? Like we talk about players that don't care and what they can turn out to be. And it's like, look at Andrew Wiggins as a case study. And like, if this dude actually cared, he could potentially be an MVP candidate year in, year out. But there's something about his body language that just reeks that he doesn't care. He just in it just to get a paycheck, do enough to where he's worthy of the next big payday. But what I'm hoping for is this reinvention with Golden State, that with actual true leadership with Steph Curry and Draymond Green, Steve Kerr, they can finally hold this kid accountable. And with him not having that tax of being the number one option for a team or number two option, he's gonna be reverting down to like the fourth offensive option for this team, and they're gonna call for him to be like the defensive stopper. If all those stars align, I think you can see a great second half of a career for Wiggins. So that's my take on it.
It's the best setup for that. I mean, he's been surrounded by the tools to make him successful, right?
Yeah.
So it's up to him.
It's enough to say that Curry and Draymond and Kerr can't turn this kid around. That it's not possible to have it happen.
It has all the recipe for it, as you had mentioned. Oftentimes when an individual like that, they'll come into an organization and they'll change the organization and they'll leave it a bloody mess, and then they'll move on to somewhere else. I think now when in getting to Golden State, he's hit that almost like the New England Patriots, when you get a player that's kind of been shuffled around and everyone calls it quits for him, they get to New England and all of a sudden they face that coaching staff, that is solid, and Steve Kerr, of course, and the players themselves, whether it be a Brady or a Steph Curry and Draymond Green, where they have that leadership and they at that point, they fall in line, Yeah.
It's real.
So they have all
it's
the
a real
recipe.
thing. Popovich used to
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, the notable things with those two organizations, be it the Spurs and the Patriots, which is a great analogy, but both of those coaches are notorious about holding players accountable. And that's really what, if we get down to like a core issue with Wiggins, that's what I truly think it is. I feel that it's really, he was thrust into a number one option role early and never really relinquished it. Maybe a little bit to Karl Anthony Towns, but but when he made dumb plays, or there was an interesting stat I had seen, and it shows not so much pace of an offense, but like steps taken in a game, and like basically a formula to map out how quick these players are moving across the court. Andrew Wiggins is one of the most athletic players in the NBA, and he was ranking in the bottom half as far as player pace. He was in there with the centers, like the Clint Capellas, the Rudy Goberts, and that just shows that's like it's a lack of drive to want to do anything. Could you imagine if he would play in fifth gear all the time?
Unreal. What a stat. That's crazy. That's telling. That is very
only
telling.
Here on the Plain White Toast. That's where we're gonna get that. That's deep right there. It's a deep cut.
For real. And you know what? That just makes me admire and really like I get a little giddy when you give a stat like that, because it's like we have access to this nerdy like group of stats now that we didn't have before, and it tells us different information. You know, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Like if basketball could, I don't think it'll ever be the same thing as like sabermetrics with like baseball, but if it could turn that, there's enough information out there that I'm real curious if a team in the future goes kind of like a full on sabermetrics Billy Bean style philosophy.
Yeah,
because there is some raw data out there that it'd be interesting to see.
Well, I've got this data right here. It says 9 out of 10 people named Wiggins turn out to be butlers.
It's an accurate stat. I've heard that on BBC, I believe.